Hi everybody, my name is Mary. I'm here today with Sarah. We're visiting from Holy Family, and we're here today to talk to you about family and faith. I am a mother of 2 children. My daughter is 15, my son is 13. They have never been to school because I homeschool them. And Sarah?
I have 2 children. My daughter is 5 and my son is 3, and they are currently both in preschool.
And it's tough, no matter what age they are, whether they're little ones or they're teens like mine, to intermingle faith into your family life. So we're here today to share our experiments, what we've been successful in, what we need to work on some more, and we're hoping that you will add your comments to the end of the video so that we can continue this conversation later.
You ready to get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, great. So how often do you pray with your family?
When my children were younger, we prayed a lot more together. Right now, at this point, with the busyness of the schedules, activities all day long, we are still very fortunate that we sit down to a family dinner every night. So that prayer is guaranteed. When they were younger and learning their prayers, we prayed a lot more together because I was helping them to memorize their prayers. Now, I trust that they pray on their own. We do not sit down and pray the rosary together. I'll never forget one time when my son was preschool age, and my daughter must have been in kindergarten or first grade, and she was learning the Our Father and the Hail Mary, and so I decided, let's do a rosary. Well, by the 5th Hail Mary, my son was having a meltdown because the sound of the repetition was just too much for him to handle. So that abruptly stopped. I mean, you have to be aware of your kids' learning styles and what they're able to receive in a positive form.
What works in your home.
Exactly.
Yeah, for us, because my children are still young, we do pray the same things over and over again for practice. So we pray every night before we go to bed. We pray before we go to school in the morning. We do pray at dinner together, but a lot of, especially with my son, it's funny you're talking about your son too. My son sitting still and trying to focus we're just not there yet. He's very adventurous.
Yes.
So my daughter enjoys it.
Mm-hmm.
My son, it's more of a struggle for us, but we're getting there. I mean, he chimes in when he wants to chime in, and sometimes he just listens, and right now that's okay.
I think that's really important for parents to understand. You do not have to sit still as a child and learn. So that rolling on the floor, that rolling around on the floor, or scratching or rolling the trucks around, they are listening. They are still being exposed. He's still in that area. He's got his ears working.
Right.
So he is absorbing all of those words that you're saying. He's probably memorizing it. He'll pop it right out one day, and you'll be shocked that he knows the word because you've never heard it before. They just have a different way of working, and to interrupt your prayer time with scolding for behavior like that is counterproductive.
I agree.
Yeah.
Definitely agree.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, let's see what else we have. Sharing your faith with your children. For me, that was easy because, as I mentioned, I homeschool my children, and we used a Catholic curriculum. So Catholic history, prayers, saints, and their lives are all incorporated into every subject area.
Wow.
So as we were studying history, we studied it from a Catholic point of view as well as other points of view.
Right.
But we read many stories about saints who were part of, say, the settlement of North America. So St. Isaac Jogues and his companions, we read his life story. We studied about where he was working in New York and in Canada, and we actually made a pilgrimage there to the place where he was martyred, and all of his companions were martyred.
Wow.
So it was really, just a part of our lifestyle.
Yeah.
Same thing with St. Augustine, a little closer to home. We studied the Spanish colonization of that area, everything that kids study in a Florida school district on that area, but we went and made the pilgrimage, and we're at the cathedral and
Which I think is the best way to learn.
Yes.
That hands-on experience, and they're gonna remember it.
Yes.
Those are like concrete in their memory
Right.
now, I'm sure.
Super important with young children like yours, but it continues to be important through their teens because that's when they're going to start making memories. Remember that trip to St. Augustine?
Yeah.
No. Well, we did it too young, I guess, but they will when they get older.
So for me, it's a little different. We do one time a week. I have a video along with a workbook that we work on, and my kids like the video because it's about these two characters, and they watch the characters, and there's always a lesson to go along with it. So they connect to it because it's fun. It's a story. There's a storyline, and then they get to look at the book, so it reinforces what they just watched. We do that. That's one of the things we do once a week. We pray, like we just talked about. And my kids ask a lot of questions at this age. So stuff comes up about, well, what did Jesus do? And why did this happen with Mary? And the questions, especially my daughter asks, crack me up. And sometimes I gotta be honest, I'm taken off guard and I have to think about it. And sometimes I don't know all the answers. I'm the first person to say that I don't know all the answers. So I'll say, I don't know, let me look into that, or let me think about how I want to answer this question because I'm not sure how I want to answer this question with you now that you're 5 about where babies come from and incorporating that with our faith because that's a tough one at 5.
Yes.
So I'm still working on this. This is a struggle in some ways for me. How to do it, it's not fluent yet. But I'm always practicing.
I think any conscious decision that you make to bring faith into the household is going to give them a strong background, and they are learning from every single opportunity. It's not, Catholicism has a reputation about being all about memorized prayers.
Yes.
And that is a part of it. Why? Because we are a community and we all know the same words, and so we're able to pray together in that way and participate and join our voices together, which is an awesome experience. But that is not the only experience within Catholicism. We have cultural things that we do at home that other people who are not Catholics don't understand. We just are having the feast day of St. Francis of Assisi, and Catholics have this tradition of blessing animals. Whether you live on a farm or in a city and you have a pet guinea pig, you bring that animal into your church and it's blessed. Why? Pets normally bring a lot of joy and comfort to family members. They share in the happiness and they share in the bad times. And so this is God's creation. Everything that God created is good and therefore can be blessed. And we do that. And it's something that maybe other people don't understand.
Right. No,
why are you doing that?
Yeah.
But when you bring your kids to family-oriented activities like that, it's just another extension of this is who we are. And this is normal for us to be giving thanks and to be asking for God's blessing in every facet of our lives. What you had said about, going out and purchasing the book and the DVD and everything, I think that's awesome. One thing that I made sure of when my kids were very young, with Christmas presents, they always got at least 2 books, and they're always something to do with our faith, whether it's a Christmas story or an Easter story or just something that has to do with a moral value that anybody who looks at the book would never even know that it's Catholic, because it's not meant to be. It's a moral lesson. So that's big too. That's just kind of another way of indirectly bringing the faith alive. I found a cookbook a couple years ago written by a Catholic mom, and she took every single saint's day and had a write-up for the family and a recipe that you could cook at some point during that day.
So nice.
And the symbols within the recipe all pointed back to this particular saint.
Wow.
And they are not all dinner recipes. Some of them are desserts. Some of them are more suited to a breakfast meal, unless you're having breakfast for supper. But just even little things like that. And the whole point of it was that you can make the meal together. If not, when you're serving the meal, you can talk about what is on the table and why it's on the table. All of those little ways of just indirectly bringing it in, I think, are make a much more profound effect
Yeah, I think sometimes as a parent you don't realize what affects your child. Simple things like I notice, even like the books I choose to read. My kids will come up to me, "Why are you reading that book? What's that book about?" And it's funny. I do read a lot of Catholic books, and they ask me, and it's funny how much they notice that you don't notice that they notice. And I'm learning that you have to be really careful what you say and how you say it, but they pick up on stuff that we don't.
When I speak to and when I speak to older parishioners at the church, that is one thing that they always go back to. I remember my mother sitting in the easy chair, praying the rosary. I just have this image, and your kids will be saying the same thing,
right?
Even if it's not a rosary. I remember my mom reading that book by whoever it was.
Right.
Big. It's big. All those little things are really important.
Okay, so this is a perfect one for me. Any advice for young families on how to balance faith, life, family, and your daily duties? Because I know some days I am a hot mess. Just say it.
You know what? The thing is that you're not the only one, and it doesn't matter how old your children are. Everybody's just trying to hold it together. We're not living in a society right now where it's easy to be a family and to have values as a family that you hold in common. So we're all struggling, and I am not a font of advice on this. I can only say what I've tried and what I have failed and what I've succeeded in. And even with your children being so young, I'm sure with that limited 5-year experience, you have advice to give as well.
Yeah.
For me, I think we just have to accept our busy schedules for what they are. They're going to be busy when you have kids, and that's not a bad thing. This means that your kids are being active, they are learning, they are participating in a community, whether it's a sport or music or some scholastic club that they're participating in. And I think that is one of the sacrifices that we make as parents, is giving our lives over to our children so that they can have as full of an experience that we can give them. And that's different for every family, how much you can actually give. I know with being stay-at-home moms, a single income family, it's tough. Money gets very tight.
Yes.
But when you're spending what you do have on quality, if it's one activity, you're going to make it the best that it can be. And in that activity that may have nothing to do with the church that you belong to, your children are interacting with others. And this is when their character comes into play, and all that hard work that you've done at home to help form that character, their interactions with their peers and with the coaches or the tutors or the adults who are leading the activities. This is where it's going to come out that I am Christian, and you can tell by the way I am treating you. I am a Catholic, and you can tell by the way I am treating you. So again, it's all of this indirect teaching that's in their subconscious and finally has an opportunity as they're getting older and busier to come out. They're going to come home and say things, one of the kids on my team or in my group is having this problem in their family. And then the conversation can start, well, what do you think about that? And let your child just express his or her thoughts and brainstorm solutions, and you can be there to guide that, but not necessarily to give the answers.
Right.
Because they're coming back to you as an older child in a trusted environment to kind of figure out, if this happens to me as an adult, what should I do? How do I handle this? And we always want it to be from the point of view of our faith. That's what my biggest piece of advice would be. Let the activities happen and help your child behave as the person that you helped create him to be.
So for me, I've learned that I have to give myself a break. I'm hard on myself. I think a lot of young, right when you start being, I think all moms are hard on themselves. I think all parents are hard on themselves. Mm-hmm. I think in the beginning, you just want to do everything and the best you can. And I think that we need to give ourselves more credit, that we are doing the best that we can.
Mm-hmm.
And some days are messy and some days are wonderful, and I think that I've had to learn to accept that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I'm always a work in progress. I think everybody's a work in progress. But I have to give myself a break sometimes. And even when, with my faith too, sometimes there's not enough time in the day to sit down and do that reading that I wanted to do, or to pray as long as I wanted to pray. But that's okay. Maybe that's the phase of my life I'm in, or maybe that's the moment that I'm in. And I feel like I was so hard on myself that I'm not giving enough time to this or to that. I felt so stretched. And when I started giving myself a break, I felt like I was more confident in myself as a parent,
Yes.
As a wife, as a child of faith. I think I needed to be okay with not being perfect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of my friends, we've talked about that and have struggled with that, because at this particular moment in my life, there isn't time for much.
No.
So you just work it in, and I like, sometimes I'm doing dishes and I pray then. Sometimes I have to pray when I'm doing the laundry. Sometimes I just cry. Sometimes I laugh. I mean, it depends on the moment. It really does. That's just being honest. And I think that that's what I've learned recently, that I just have to give myself a break.
Absolutely. Fantastic piece of advice. What do you think? Let us know in the comments.
No.
We want to continue this conversation. So what are your concerns? What questions do you have? Do you struggle as a mom or a dad? What do you struggle with? We're looking forward to hearing what you have to say. And thanks so much for spending this time with us today.
Thank you. Have a good one.